last, we didn't get to finish the game. Me and Phoenix were almost at the exact same point at about the, what, 20, you say the 20-hour mark? Or you were at the 30, but that's because you had played more side stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were still a couple hours away from the ending, so we got to, I don't know, over the next couple days after that episode, we got to, kind of finish the game almost at the same point. And yeah, I guess just kind of overall thoughts on the ending as a whole. I would just say, I remember saying that I think I was slightly lower on this game versus God of War 2018. And upon completing it, it's hard to say. Like, I feel like I'm almost right dead at 2018. Like, I don't know if I could say I liked the game as a whole more or less. Which, is that a good thing? Because that means just like the quality was maintained and it was still fun and
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, and this kind of goes back to what we're talking about. Like, this game, I almost don't think
a
you should think of it as a
continuation
sequel.
heavy.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you gotta look at this as the whole package. So don't say, oh, 2018 versus Ragnarok. Like, if you think about from the beginning of 2018 to the end of Ragnarok, how do you feel about that whole experience? That's how I would kind of, try to gauge your
Hmm.
expectations about it. So I mean, the fact that had similar feelings of quality and polish and narrative kind of follow through. I mean, I think that speaks to the quality of both games and how well they were able to kind of stitch it together.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of where I left off.
Well, you hadn't
Um,
gotten to Asgard
Ragnarok.
yet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I just killed Heimdall, I think is where I left off at.
Oh, okay. So I was a little further than
Anything,
that. I think I was
yeah.
just about to go into Asgard for the whole Ragnarok battle, and you were like maybe an hour before that because you hadn't found what was it Surtur or any of that yet, right?
No, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
How do you feel about that part?
Which I,
So going
I actually
into the whole
really,
Surtur battle, and then throwing him down the galactic pit or whatever it
hmm
was.
and then attacking the Valkyries and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed Surtur. I think he was one of my favorite characters in the whole game for the short amount of time you
Mm-hmm.
got to kind of talk with him. He was very witty. I remember he had some jokes in there. I can't remember exactly. It's been a few weeks, but he was really cool. I really liked, he was a character that had been kind of built up in 2018. I remember he had been, oh shoot, what am I doing? Forgot my B-roll. But yeah, he was fun. I enjoyed him. I'll be honest though, his impact didn't really feel all that important in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all he kind of did was blow up a door, and
Kill
that was
Freya's
it.
brother. Jeez.
Did he? Oh, that's right. I forgot he killed. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, for me. It didn't feel like he was kind of all there.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree, and I tell you that general kind of feeling that not a really I think a whole lot of impact really happened just period at the end of the game for me. Like the biggest moments for me of the game were leading up until Ragnarok,
mhm.
like where they fight the big giant wolf, and then they go do a whole Surtur battle, and the Valkyries underneath. Like all that build up was really really good, and they built up a lot of anticipation. And then you get to the actual Ragnarok battle, and I don't know about you, but I felt fairly underwhelmed with that last
I agree.
couple of hours.
Hmm. What did you think about Jormungandr's origins? Did you think that was
I thought that was cool.
cool at all?
Well, I
Mm.
think I kind of pulled this up last time when you were talking about kind of the time travel mechanic. I'd mentioned, oh, they had mentioned something in a conversation where like Thor had knocked someone back through time. That was the
Because I
whole.
remember mentioning that God of War 2 was centered all around. Because you were
That's
like,
right.
was time a integral part of any God of War game? I
All right.
remember we talked about
But it
that.
was cool because you got to see that moment play out from their conversation where he smacks the big snake back, and it ties it all
Hmm.
together between that was the origin of him as a Titan. Just like it's a
Hmm.
cool bit of lore there how they fit it in. Honestly, that's one of the things that this game does the best and doesn't ever I think falter on is how they really just enrich the game through its lore, and it's cool because it's a very unique take on Norse mythology. Like it isn't exactly your standard tried and true North myths. It has their own take and spin on everything, which I think is really cool. So I don't know, that was good, but I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of express my feelings towards that last hour or so. Like, how did you feel about the siege on Asgard? Where you're kind of going through and breaking in, and trying to get through the big gate and all that kind of stuff.
Fine. I mean, like I want to say it was. I don't know. To me, it wasn't as I guess cinematic. in
Mm-hmm.
a way. And I also didn't think you really like fought a really big variety of enemies. It was mainly just continuation of the what were they called? The ice
Yeah, the it
or
starts with the H or something like that. I know the undead Norse
yeah, you
Azer
just
or
kind of
whatever.
fought a bunch of those creatures, and then it threw you towards the battle at the end. And it was
I think what really kind of
like it would have
lost,
been.
or why I kind of lost it, like you're right, cinematics when we were looking at it, because like you think about, you have this giant epic battle kind of taking place all around you, like you have the giant snake in the back and Surtur's out there. You almost never
Hmm.
see them. They throw you into like these little, pits and tunnels and kind of alcoves to fight through,
Hmm.
and it's all just very close quarters combat, so you don't get to see the scale of the battle. And I know it's because you're trying to slowly work your way towards actually getting into Asgard, but I don't know if it really brought down the scope of the battle to me, which I thought was kind of lacking. I don't know.
It to me like I've compared this new age God of War to God of War 3 a lot, but to me it felt like a very like if you compare it to the opening scene with God of War 3 with against with the Gaia and the Titans versus
Mm-hmm.
Olympus and all that stuff. Like for me, it paled in comparison
It
to
did.
kind of the I can't think of the word to kind of the scale
Yeah, the
of
scope
that
and the
battle. Where
scale
like
just felt so
yeah,
much like you're right. All the older original
considering
God
what's
of War
happening in the
games,
background,
yeah,
yeah.
they were all about everything being larger than life. Like you're scaling giant titans, you're scaling Mount Olympus, and they made it feel like you're really tiny in this really big world.
Hmm.
But then you get to this, siege on Asgard, and it should feel that way. If you're trying to go up this giant mountain, like honestly, it felt more impactful when you were playing as Atreus, just climbing the mountain. But like with this, you're just like down the ground level the whole time, sneaking through these basically little tunnels, and then you get to the wall, and then you're just let in, kind of deal. Like, yeah, very anticlimactic for that siege portion. The combat, you're
It
right,
was
wasn't
just
anything
like
overly
a
interesting.
it was just like a walking and protect Sindri. That's all
Mm-hmm.
you kind of did,
Yeah.
and it was fine. But I agree. We both are in agreement that I think the scale was I don't know compared to the older game, just not all that
Everything just felt
fantastic.
very anticlimactic to me. And I don't want to come across negative. I did enjoy the game, and even the ending overall, I think was good. But the build up that you got those first or those few hours leading up to that final battle, it made you feel like
Hmm.
there should have just been more. Because even after you got past that siege, you finally get into Asgard, you immediately fight Thor. Like there's no like fighting through the city or any of that. You're just bam, Thor. Well, okay, I guess there was a little bit. You had to make your way to him slowly, but there wasn't much that I recall. Do you? I think it was just like a little bit of combat, and then bam, you're at
I
Thor.
don't remember. I don't. Yeah, that's what it felt like to me, honestly. So I guess kind of leading up to it, just I mean, what did you think about the final battle with Thor and Odin? I'm kind of disappointed they were
Fine.
so close to one another and
Yeah.
that they were in the same location.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Thor
I mean,
battle, felt like the first Thor battle, but in a less interesting place. Like the first one,
mhm.
you're fighting around this basically frozen lightning strike, which is pretty cool, and then the second one, you're just in front of a building. Like I don't know. The Thor battle was fine. I didn't find it overly like difficult or unique. It was just a bunch of wailing on him, and maybe it was because at that point I had leveled up my character so much. Like Kratos, I think at that point in the game I had just about maxed out most of his armor, so I just kind of pounded on Thor until he was done. So there wasn't really a whole lot there I'm sorry, as
I
far as
was
like challenge or anything.
I was more disappointed with the Odin battle than
Mm-hmm.
the Thor battle. Like Odin just I don't know, kind of thinking on it after playing the game. I don't I don't know. He just didn't feel that menacing, I guess, on the whole. Like
Yeah,
I'm
like
not quite sure where they were going with that
it's
character
hard
design.
because the appeal to this Odin, or the menacing factor to him, is how manipulative he is, right? That he was working behind the scenes and tricking everybody through, his transforming into other people kind of stuff, and kind of playing all the hands against everybody. Like that's where the threat from Odin comes from, right? Is his knowledge and understanding and foresight to kind of trick everybody and
Hmm.
manipulate them. He never really came across as this like physical powerhouse, which at the end of a God of War game, it's always going to come down to just I'm going to punch you to death kind of thing. So
Physicality, yeah.
yeah, so when you get down to a fisticuffs with Odin, it's just like he does some teleporting, he's got some Norse god powers, but it doesn't feel impressive or special. Like compare it to like the Zeus fight in God of War 3. and there's like no comparison there. Like,
That fight just keeps going on and on.
and like
That fight's pretty
Zeus
crazy.
feels powerful through it. It makes sense for his character. And granted, Zeus, at least the way he was portrayed in these games, is a more imposing kind of physical threat than Odin was. But just the scale of that battle felt different. This Odin battle,
Plus,
you go,
Kratos and him are related, so it makes sense that like
yeah.
their two forces are like.
Well, you have Thor and Odin who are related. I mean, they don't share the same physicality. Is that where you're going with that, or?
Oh, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
And granted, that's just once again the developer's interpretation of Odin. Not every Odin has that same kind of lack of physicality, but I don't know. I definitely felt underwhelmed with the Odin battle. Both phases of it, if you will. Like the second phase didn't even really feel all that different to me. I can't recall a bunch of differences, at least mechanically. It once again just came around to me, just chasing around, punching him a lot until he died. So
Yeah, they were a bit underwhelming. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things that were revealed. I mean, the other thing that happened is I remember the Atreus destroys the mask. Therefore, we never get to find out exactly
what's behind
the question
tear?
that's behind So I'm assuming what that's like the answer to life or the reason for our being was behind there. We'll never get to. Maybe in the next game, that's what they'll. Maybe Atreus will continue his search out of curiosity for whatever that was.
Maybe. I mean, I think.
Assuming.
Well, we can come back to where Atreus is going in a minute, but I want to kind of focus on those reveals or lack thereof towards the end. So, like the whole thing building up to this from a narrative standpoint was, will Kratos defy fate? Right? Will he find a way to not die? And he does. But did you really Did you track with that how that moment even occurred? That he cheated death? Because I don't feel like they really telegraphed it very well.
Yeah, well,
that was the whole point. He was supposed to die. That was the fate, right? Kratos was supposed to die, and he didn't. But like, did you catch on to how or why he didn't die?
No. Or are you going to answer it? Because I'm not seeing it.
Well, to my understanding, maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but the whole point was, like, and this was the theme throughout the game, Kratos never trusted Atreus. It was against his character to be able to do that, right? And then the last moment, he trusts Atreus, and that's when Atreus makes the change of heart to break the mask and all that.
Oh, to destroy the mask, yeah.
I guess my point being is, it was such a... If that is the rationale for how they avoided fate, it was either way too subtle, or I don't know, it didn't have enough impact to me, because I don't know, it felt like there was missing some kind of, I don't know, something there at the end that would kind of show how he was able to defy the fates and not die. And they even kind of showed the flip side of it, like, it was supposed to be Kratos lying in Atreus' lap at the end, and instead it was Odin lying in his lap. So they were clearly trying to do some kind of imagery or symbolism there to show there was a shift there where Odin now took Kratos' place to die, but I don't know where that shift took place. I thought it was poorly I don't want to say poorly executed. Somebody's going to yell at me, but I feel like it could have had a little more context, maybe. And maybe some people will prefer the subtlety, but I don't know. I felt something was lacking there in that little narrative moment.
I definitely, after thinking about it, I think I definitely preferred the ending for 2018. I don't know. 2018's ending was just more... I don't want to say it was more open, but I felt like it had a pretty satisfying place where it kind of left off, where you're just like,
well, you
got answers. You had answers, but many questions opened up. But the
benefit was 2018 was it was such a simpler objective, right? The only thing they had to do in that game was release the mother's ashes. So all the conflict and everything, it didn't really matter how it resolved, it just had to resolve. So I mean, they had some interesting narrative standpoints with how Baldur had to die and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately it didn't matter, right? As long as they beat Baldur and he wasn't a hindrance to him anymore, they could move forward to go ahead and spread the ashes. That was going to feel satisfying. This game had so many other ends to tie up, right? The thing with the fates, and then Atreus' history, and Odin's objective, and the stuff with the tear. Like, they had all these different kind of plates spinning, and I don't feel like it was a really satisfying conclusion for all those threads to kind of get wrapped up or tied together. Does that make sense? At least for me.
No, I agree.
And maybe they're just saving some of that. You could be right. Maybe in some sequel or spin-off, they'll come back to that world behind the tear kind of thing or whatnot. Or maybe they'll dig into more to what happened with the fates, but I don't know. I just felt a little lackluster there, and maybe I felt more so because I was already missing out on the big climactic battle side of things. So I was thinking, well, there will at least be some big narrative kind of filler here at the end to kind of satisfy everything. And I feel like even that was lacking. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the ending's bad because I mean, I think as a whole, if you look at the whole game, the ending served
It
its
was really
purpose. It just, to me, that was the low point of the game personally. Now I liked the post game. Like, how much of the post game did you end up doing as far as like side objectives and all that kind of stuff?
I did mostly everything except beat Gna.
Okay.
Gna was the only major, and I watched the cutscene on YouTube of after it, and it's not much, but
Oh yeah.
that was pretty much it. Yeah.
Did you do the trials? And was it Muspelheim?
I didn't finish them. No.
Okay.
It's the stuff right next to Gna. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you do
I didn't do that.
all the Ravens?
I had 2 other ones. I think I did, but I forgot to turn it in.
Oh, okay.
I think
you
I
missed
think I
one of the
forgot to open the
cooler. You missed one of the cooler
Really?
things. I mean, for me,
I think I
because
forgot to open that last chest.
so I mean, do you want me to spoil it, or do you want?
No, go ahead.
So it's a small thing, but to me it caught me off guard. Like all the Ravens, I went, opened up the chest, and like the whole time the Ravens have been talking about like our father has trapped us, blah blah blah, referring to Odin. When you open the last chest, they're like our mother and father, and then they have this big like witch lady pop up you have to chase down and fight. So it's like some final battle, the mother of the Ravens you got to kill at the end. And it wasn't like the battle was anything overly interesting, but it was something very unexpected. And I feel like that was kind of the cool thing with a lot of the post game. It had a lot of cool little hidden battles. If you go back and start searching through stuff, there was like a hidden dragon you could fight. Did you ever find him?
Probably not.
Yeah. So I mean, the post game I think it had a lot to it. I liked the post game of Ragnarok a lot more than 2018.
I was gonna say, what did you think about ultimately Tyr or not? Was it Tyr? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is Tyr the God of War?
Tyr? Yeah.
Finding real Tyr? Yeah. What did you think about? I actually thought that whole section was kind of boring. The whole finding him in the tower thing.
I mean, it wasn't like an overly interesting way to find him. I think it was interesting to find him.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I just thought like it was like a very kind of simple puzzle. You kind of doing like some jump swinging across, and I was just like, that kind of was a way of finding him.
I think I find it interesting because like he was, to me, he didn't feel like he was that well imprisoned. Unless it was just because of the realm he was in was maybe hard to get to. I don't know, but like he was just in a regular.
It really felt like he should have been able to get out of there if he wanted to.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that was a little, I think lackluster, but it was cool to see Tyr and kind of get the actual Tyr's perspective on things. Did we talk about that turn last time where I don't know Serrano got that where Tyr was actually Odin?
Odin? I
don't think you had gotten to that part yet. So I know you haven't played the game, Metal, so I don't want to overly go into too much detail. But one of the things you do is you find the Norse god of war Tyr at the very beginning of the game. He's kind of there to help you out and kind of serve as an advisor to a certain extent. You find out at the end it wasn't Tyr. It was Odin in disguise the entire time, listening to all your plans and like trying to jerk you around and whatnot. So it was a cool.
What a jerk.
Yeah, so it was a cool twist there at the end when Tyr Odin reveals himself.
I'm still kind of. I mean, it's kind of weird that his wife didn't notice it, or she's like super ultra powerful too.
Here's what's interesting about it. I don't know if you saw some of this from either like reading online or hearing some of the developer interviews, but they added a lot of little hints if you know to look for them, so you can tell that that's not the real Tyr. For example, when Tyr talks to Freya for the first time, he doesn't call her Freya; he calls her Frigg, which is what Odin always called Freya. That was their whatever name.
He didn't catch that?
Yeah, so she didn't catch that, which, is kind of like, whatever. And there's actually, if you have, like, subtitles on the game, like, Tyr is supposed to have, like, a little apostrophe over, I think, the Y or something, the official writing. But when it's Odin pretending to be Tyr, the apostrophe is removed in the subtitle. So it's just TYR instead of TYR with the little apostrophe. So they do a lot of little subtle things like that. Then if you go back with that information, you can see all the little kind of cues to how that's not really the real Tyr. But, I don't know. Thought that was kind of interesting.
And I guess the only other section I remember that was post-game to mention is the whole funeral for Sindri's brother.
For Brock.
That was a pretty good section. I really enjoyed that. It was really sad.
Part where they finally he got the answer to the riddle. Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all really set up.
Riddle for you, Metal Gamer, since you haven't played the game, so probably hasn't been spoiled. What gets
Oh no.
bigger the more you take away from it?
Nah.
Don't get dirty.
No, I'm not. I'm already there, but no. Um, I don't know. What would that be?
So the reason I'm telling you, so early on, or at some point in the game, there's this character Brock. He's one of the dwarves that you interact with that makes your weapons. He tells you a riddle, and that's the riddle. What gets bigger the more you take away from it. And the smart little advisor head that floats on your hip, Mimir, can't guess it. He's supposed to be like the smartest man alive. And then what happens is that dwarf gets killed by Odin, pretending to be Tyr at a certain point. And at the very end of the game, you have a funeral with him, and then Mimir gets the answer to the riddle. It's a hole. A hole gets
That's
bigger
dumb.
the more you take away from it. Well, it's dumb, but it was actually this really kind of, I don't know, gut wrenching moment because I
Yeah.
don't know, just the way they kind of interact and the way that riddle was kind of left hanging the whole time. It was I
Well,
don't
it
know.
gets talked to. It gets mentioned.
Yeah, like
That's
during
pretty
passing
hilarious.
conversations, he keeps trying to give answers for it and never gets it right, and Brock's like jabbing him the whole time. So I don't know. It was
That's
a fun,
kinda
just
funny.
little narrative kind of thing they tied in there. But yeah, I don't think there was anything else.
Awesome.
I know that. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything.
I would say
We do kind of get.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go first.
No, I was just gonna say we do kind of see Atreus and Angrboda kind of go off on their own, or he says he's gonna go off on his own adventure. What is he? I forgot what he says he's gonna go
He's
do.
trying to go find the rest of the Titans because he believes they're
Ah.
still out there and he can, resurrect some. Now there's no threat of Odin trying to bring him back. I think is kind of the goal. I mean, technically he can put him into animals, so he could, have a whole animal Titan world.
Do you think? Do you think Kratos and Frey are gonna go make a new Atreus?
No,
Huh?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I guess my question. So
They could make the ultimate warrior child. They're two like the greatest fighters in the cosmos, I guess.
well, technically, what is it? I don't know if you know the actual Norse mythology between Loki and Angrboda, but they're supposed to give birth to a giant wolf. What is it, Fenrir? And that's supposed to be the strongest being out there. It kills Odin and all this kind of stuff in actual Norse mythology. So
Fenrir is already in this game, though.
yeah, they've taken some liberties. But anyways, so do you think with the way they kind of left the game that what's next for God of War is kind of going with this? Like, do you think they'll go ahead and have that spin-off game with Angrboda and Atreus going off on their Titan journey, or they'll leave that alone and they'll just reinvent Kratos and new God of War kind of mythos, go from there?
I think the latter. Because I don't know if Sony would like. I would assume they know there would be. I don't want to say backlash. There's not gonna be backlash, but I think people are gonna play God of War no matter what. But I definitely think. I mean, you can't shift wholly away from Kratos. Like,
I agree.
like I definitely think you can have your cake and eat it too, where you still stay as Kratos, and then maybe periodically, as in this game, you can switch over to Atreus on whatever he's doing with Angrboda or whatever. I think that's probably probably it.
What if they did because Sony's done this a lot too with a lot of their first party games. They have a spin-off side game that focuses on that. Like think Spider-Man Miles Morales or The Last of Us.
Uncharted.
Like Uncharted. What was it? Not Lost Legacy. Was it Lost Legacy? Or was that the Lost Legacy collection? It was that whole spin-off.
I can't remember. I know there was a spin-off one.
Yeah, and then Last of Us had, it was a DLC, but I think they made it standalone after a while with Ellie and the mall and the other characters. So do you think they'd just do that maybe? Not have another, not necessarily a full-fledged God of War game, but mini God of War, Lad of War?
God of War Ascension 2.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Or do you think they'll just save it all for a brand new God of War?
I think they'll just start a new God of War.
Okay.
Because I mean the whole reality tear thing can kind of pave the way for a new location, for a new world in a way.
So on that, and I think that's actually a good segue or a good way to kind of bring in other mythologies. Did they ever? Maybe I just missed this in 2018 because it's been so long. How did he go from Greek mythology to Norse mythology in the first place?
They never say how. He just turns up here.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be some bit of information in the game somewhere that I've overlooked. I mean, if I go look online, I'll find out. But I feel like that's a pretty big, point, because if we're going to think about how he's going to go into some other form mythology, we probably need to look at how he got from the first mythology into this one,
Well,
right?
to me, again, the tear in reality is the only thing that to me can answer any
Well,
of that.
I mean that makes sense, but I don't think, at least in the lore they've laid out here, that Kratos used any kind of tear like that to go from Greek to Norse. Because otherwise, I think he'd be a lot more knowledgeable of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, because like that's true. Because at the beginning of 2018, he has like no understanding of how this world. Like when he first meets his the mother,
Mhm.
he has like no understanding of this world or its gods or anything.
Yeah, so they make it seem like sometimes he just went from one country to another, but I don't think that's really how it was. Like, because in God of War 3, he pretty much destroyed
He
the
dies.
world. He
He dies
died and
again.
destroyed the world. So, was he reincarnated? Was he, like, I don't know. I've missed
I
that.
guess reincarnation's probably the thing that makes the most sense.
But that would be weird too, because I mean, he's starting this as old Kratos. So did he reincarnate as a new baby Kratos and live an entire life in this Norse world? Because that doesn't make sense. Because he'd know about Norse mythology if he lived his whole life there, or did
And
he
they
just?
even, and it's not as if. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I don't know. I'm just kind of theory crafting now. And honestly,
And,
reincarnation wouldn't make sense because he has his blade of chaos. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And it's not as if Odin created this world, because Odin is super upfront about how like he has no understanding of the origin of
Right.
things, and he says there was someone before him that created everything. So like Odin's not even the end all be all of this world.
Yeah, I'm curious what's tying all this together. And maybe I've just missed a really big thing from God of War 2018 that explained that. And if somebody is somehow watching this video and wants to explain in the comments, leave us a link. I'll love to look into it. But I feel like that's a pretty big missing element that I think if you figure that out is going to really help you kind of understand where this game is going to go next. Because you'll then have some kind of story rationale for how he's able to jump around between mythologies. But I don't know.
Kratos versus I don't know Egyptians.
Egypt would be cool. They got a lot of cool mythology, a lot of gods there. You got Chinese
Japan.
mythology.
I would say Chinese Japan.
Ireland actually has a lot of cool mythology too. Like, there's some cool stuff there.
I know it's a joke, but I've seen so many people joke about like modern mythology or modern religions, and I'm like, dude, they're not. No one's gonna touch that. I know it's a jokey thing, but
Well, some people aren't
I don't
joking.
know.
It depends on how you view if any of that's truly mythology. Like, I have my own opinion. But
I'm
ooh,
just saying because in my last stream, someone was talking about that, and I'm like, I don't think you could
they will
get away with.
not go that
No,
direction. No,
no.
you can't. You really can't. I mean, whether you feel like that's a good gameplay decision or not, I mean, that's gonna get your game banned in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Maybe not banned,
Well,
but
it's
you know
like
what I'm saying.
also with that argument, it's like, um, our modern religions don't have like giant creatures and stuff anyway, so I don't
Wouldn't
think that
be fun
makes
from
any
a
sense.
gameplay perspective. So,
Uh,
uh,
yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know, but anyways, I do think I'd have to see the Ireland thing. So I'm not familiar with that one at all.
there's a little bit. I'm not real well versed in it, but they have a few cool gods in there. But I would like to see Egypt personally. I think there's a lot there, and I think people know enough about Egyptian mythology. They could probably draw some
Oh
parallels
yeah,
there. They know
there's
about Ra and stuff like that.
Isis, Isis and Ra and all that.
Yeah, so I think that'd be an easy segue. Like, they won't have to teach a huge amount. Like, I think that's what made Ragnarok work really well. Is you had the MCU that kind of revitalized Norse mythology some, so people are already
Hmm.
familiar again with Loki and Thor and Odin, all that kind of stuff. So it was an easy segue. So I feel like they'd want to do something again that has some familiarity out there. That way, it's something easy to grab onto. But
Yeah. Ultimately, I agree. Who knows? I have no idea where they're gonna go
well,
with
we're not
this
going to see
next.
another God of War game probably for
Oh,
5, 6
2026,
years. Oh,
2025.
I think it's
Yeah.
yeah, I think 2027. I think it's gonna be about 5 years. I don't think we're gonna see this
Hmm.
anytime soon, but we'll see.
Do you think maybe they'll do a movie? It seems like Sony's kind of they've done an Uncharted movie. They're doing Last of Us TV show.
Um,
I know a lot of people have been saying they want the voice actor of Kratos to play Kratos in a movie or TV show. I think that's been on a lot of people's.
I don't think it would translate well, personally. I mean, not that I don't think there's a good story there, so it's cinematic, but I don't know. I think games like this that have this high level of, man, what's a good way to say this? I'm trying to think the best way to phrase this. I feel like it's so gamey, part of it, and that's not going to translate well. And this,
like, Last of Us is a more cinematic experience anyway.
it's focusing on just the narrative. It's a little more down to earth and realistic. Like, this is just so out there. Like, I think to make that come across more realistic, like, I don't know.
We didn't even ask Gamer. Like, what does Gamer want? Like, what? I mean, I would assume
No movies.
no movies, no TV shows.
No, I saw Uncharted. I thought that was a heap of trash, and that's just me.
Here's the thing, Uncharted could have worked. Like, that's one of the franchises that I think could have worked.
They could have made it work.
They strayed too far away from it. And that's the thing, like, so are they going to try to do a one-to-one thing if they do God of War? I don't think that's going to work. It's also, I think, a situation where they can't really stray too far away from it. I think they're going to be barking up the wrong tree if they try to take God of War and translate it into a movie. They have franchises that work well. I think the Last of Us TV show is going to work out really well for them. And I know we're segueing a little bit, but I thought the way they're handling The Last of Us is really smart. That they are, it seems like, making it like a one-to-one translation from the first game. So I think that's going to work in their favor, because really The Last of Us is, yeah, about the world, but more importantly, I think it's about the story between Joel and Ellie. So the fact they're focusing on that, I think, is going to work really well for them. With God of War, is the focus Kratos and Atreus? Is it the fact that you're beating up gods? Is it like pinpointing what God of War is to translate that into a movie? I think is going to be tricky, because you end up with like a Doom scenario where like Doom just focused on, hey, you're in space shooting stuff with like zombie aliens.
I did a video on that movie.
I know,
like that movie.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, that didn't translate well, because I don't know if they really identified what made Doom Doom, right?
That's a dumb movie, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, we're just making this particular topic stretch way too long. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Ultimately, I would say so. Did you like it more than 2018? I think you said you did.
I did, but for me, I think really it's not about the narrative. All that was good. I think the combat was just a lot better, and that's what turned me off a little in the first game. And I think it improved enough in this game that it kind of carried me through and made me a little more optimistic to the whole thing.
Said it, but I'm finding it hard to really differentiate between the two.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, they're both really good games. I absolutely recommend them. I want to say I like 2018 just a touch more, but I honestly, I don't know.
They bleed together a lot.
They bleed together, yeah. But anyways, yeah. So that was God of War Ragnarok. We can turn the page on that. That's our second part of that topic.
Oh, is it your game of the year? I will ask that. Is it going to beat out Elden Ring?
Oh, well, beats out Elden Ring.
For you, because you can beat Elden Ring.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and see what exactly I've played this year, because
it's going to be Stray. That's going to be the game of the year.
Pokemon Violet is not my game of the year right now.
All right, well, let's shift over into Pokemon talk then, since you brought it up.